Assalamualaikum and hi to Dr. NAJIHAH HANISAH. I am EZZAT IMANI bin MUHAMAD JAMRI as first presenter for my group. Right now, I will explain about introduction of East Asia, East Asia map, sub-region of East Asia and climate in East Asia. Without any further ado, let me begin my presentation.
First, introduction. The East Asia could be an advanced and culturally made region with the Chinese, Korean, and Japanese civilization among the oldest within the world. Over the past 50 years, Japan, Asian country, Taiwan, and China become economic powerhouses and leaders within the development of science and technology. Apart from that, East Asia, especially Chinese civilization, is regarded as one of the earliest cradles of civilization. Major growth factors have ranged from favorable political and legal environments for industry and commerce, through abundant natural resources to plentiful supplies of relatively low-cost, skilled, and adaptable labor. The region's economic success has led the World Bank to dub it an East Asian Renaissance. How many countries in East Asia are there? So there are 8. The first 4 are Mongolia, Hong Kong, China, Macau, Taiwan, Japan, North Korea, and South Korea. Next sub-region. First is Mongolia. Name of capital is Ulaanbaatar. The name of leader is Khaltmaagin Batuga, and the population of this country is 3,320,878 of people. Next, Hong Kong. The capital is City of Victoria. The name of leader is KHIRIL, and the population is 7,552,810 of people. Third, China. The capital is Beijing. Name of leader is Xi Jinping, and the population is 1,443,842,728 people. The fourth is Macau. It has no capitals, and the name of leader is Ho Lat Seng, and the population is 658,394 people. Fifth one is Taiwan. The name of capital is Taipei. Name of leader is Tsai Ing-wen, and population is 23,855,010. Japan. The name of capital is Tokyo. Name of leader is Yoshihide Suga, and population is 125,280,000. North Korea. The name of capital is Pyongyang. Name of leader is Kim Jong-un, and the population is 25,870,345. Lastly, South Korea. The name of capital is Seoul. Name of leader is Moon Jae-in, and the population is 51,305,186. Now I will be explaining about the East Asia climate. The first one is monsoons. Monsoons are winds that change direction with the change of season. In summer, ocean winds bring warm moist air to Asia, causing hot, humid weather. In winter, the winds change direction and blow icy cold air from the north. These winds also produce dust storms in dry parts of China. Secondly, typhoons. It starts out from Pacific Ocean and moves westward towards the Asian mainland. Sometimes it strikes the southern coastline of the United States during August and September. It brings heavy rain and winds at 74 mph or more.
Assalamualaikum and hello to Dr. NAJIHAH HANISAH. My name is Muhammad Aiman Akmal bin Ahmad KHIRIL AZAM, and I'm the second presenter for my group. Right now, I will explain about maps for each sub-region in East Asia, their history and culture, growth domestic product, inflation rate, employment rate, and business major. Without any further ado, let me begin my presentation.
East Asia, China, Hong Kong, Mongolia, Macau, Taiwan, Japan, South Korea, and North Korea.
Art, politics, technology, and philosophy have also played important roles in China's history.
It is the birthplace of the world's oldest civilization. Ceramics, architecture, music, literature, martial arts, cuisine, decorative arts, philosophy and religion are all important aspects of China culture. At the end of the First Opium War in 1842, Britain gained control of Hong Kong and ruled for 150 years. In 1997, China took control of Hong Kong. A sophisticated tradition that are well versed in foreign affairs. The powerful Mongol Empire that began in 1206 AD be formed by the powerful ruler Genghis Khan. After years of Mongol dynasty was overthrown, in 1921 Mongolia gained its independence with help from the Soviet Union. Mongolia is well known for its nomadic traditions, a seasonal routine raising and breeding the 6 main types of stock. In 1887, China agreed that Portugal could occupy Macau under agreement called the Protocol of Lisbon. However, in 1999, Macau was handed back to China as a special administrative region. Integrity in the family, treating the powerful with reserved behavior in public, solidarity in lineage, the utmost respect of the elders. The island of Taiwan was discovered in 1544 by Europeans. In 1683, the Chinese defeated the Dutch and eventually Taiwan became a full province of the Chinese Empire. A conventional and religious culture, similar to most other Asian cultures, the culture is hierarchical and class-based. In the 11th century, samurai and a ruling class of warriors came into power. In 1630s, the shogun closed the country trading after Portuguese arrived and began to trade with the Japanese. During the World War II, Japan attacked the US bombing Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. This caused the US to join the war and drop atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki cities. They developed rapidly during the Heian, turned out enduring art, poetry and prose. The samurai warrior class developed at this time as well. Korea was divided into 3 kingdoms, Shilla, Goguryeo, Pekcha. Korea was invaded and conquered by other large empires. Soviet Union took control of North and the US took over South. The first major conflict of Cold War began in 1950 after South Korea was invaded by North Korea. South Korean culture comprises all of its history, customs, traditions and beliefs. Today, North Korea is a communist country and keeps itself isolated from the rest of the world. China's GDP is 15.66 trillion with growth rate of 2.3%. Meanwhile, the inflation rate is 2.5% with the employment rate of 4.2%. Their business major is manufacturing, agriculture and telecommunication services. Hong Kong GDP is 350 billion with a growth rate of -3%, an inflation rate of 0.3% and the employment rate of 7.2%. Their business major is trading and logistics. Mongolia GDP is 13.2 billion with a growth rate of -2%. Their inflation rate is 7.26%. Meanwhile, their employment rate is 5.95% and their business major is agriculture and livestock. Macau GDP is 51.8 billion with a growth rate of -45.9%. Their inflation rate is 0.81%. Meanwhile, their employment rate is 2.7%. Their business major is tourist attraction and gambling activities. Taiwan GDP is 19.8 trillion with a growth rate of 3.11%. Their inflation rate is 0.1%. Meanwhile, employment rate is 3.9%. Their business major is electronics, petroleum, refining, armaments, etc. Japan GDP is 4.9 trillion with a growth rate of -4.8%. Inflation rate is 1.25%. Their employment rate is 2.34%. And their business major is agriculture, fishing, electronic goods industry. South Korea GDP is 2.3 trillion with a growth rate of -1.1%. Inflation rate 0.5%. Unemployment rate 8.07% and their business major is automobiles, technology. Lastly, North Korea GDP is 18 billion with a growth rate of -5.5%, inflation rate 55%, unemployment rate 2.7% and their business major is import and export raw materials.
Assalamualaikum. Annyeonghaseyo, Dr. Najihah Hanisa binti Marmaya. Jo Irumun Muhammad Ishraffil Ezzrail bin Muhammad JUSNI Nida. Jonun Je Kulubi Se Ponje Balpyo Jaim Nida. Hwang Yong Munche, Sisa Munche, Chongchi Munche, Tonghua Pikyo, Tong Asya Umshike Tehe, 설명해겠습니다. 감사합니다. Although air pollution is the biggest environmental challenge for public health, especially in China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Macau, the source of air pollution in these countries has gradually changed from conventional coal combustion to a mixture of coal combustion and motor vehicle emissions. In Japan, one of the biggest environmental issues is waste management. As a result of the massive amount of trash that the modern Japanese societies did, due to the small size of the tiny island nation of Japan, there is a lack of space that can accommodate this trash production. As a result of the rapid rise of industrialization in South Korea, water challenges including shortage and quality degradation have been serious problems that have plagued this country since the 1990s. While various water policies have been implemented by South Korean government, of which included an additional water use charge for lowland water users to pay for highland residents in an effort to reduce highland agriculture intensification. In North Korea, cultivation, logging, and natural disasters have all put pressure on North Korea's forests. New crop cultivation of slopes exceeding 15 degrees has been banned to help prevent erosion and landslides. Let's move on to political issues in East Asia. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit, the trade war faded into the background, used only to highlight China's inability to meet the conditions of the deal to purchase an additional $200 billion in American products over the 2017 level through 2021 due to the disruption from the pandemic. South Koreans are very aware of their achievement in creating one of the few genuine democratic and stable nation-states in East Asia. The party system is arguably the weakest link in South Korean democracy. Parties are very unstable. In Japan, the biggest political issues this year is the timing of the next general election, with the tenure for the House of Representatives lawmakers set to end in October. Now, let's talk about current issues in East Asia. Hong Kong has seen several months of pro-democracy protests. The protests began in June 2019 over plans. They then spread to reflect wider demands for democratic reform. In Mongolia, police have arrested 800 Chinese citizens as part of a major probe into cybercrime. Raids in the capital of Ulaanbaatar on January 2021 also resulted in computer equipment and mobile phones being seized by authorities. In Macau, one of the things visitors may notice is the striking contrast between the well-preserved historic buildings on one hand and the dilapidated urban housing on the other. Now let's take a look of the currency comparison of Malaysia and other East Asia countries. In China, 1 ringgit accumulated to 1.5 yuan. In South Korea, 1 ringgit accumulated to 272 Korean won. In Japan, 1 ringgit accumulated to 26 Japan yen. In Hong Kong, 1 ringgit Malaysia accumulated to 1.9 Hong Kong dollar. In Mongolia, 1 ringgit Malaysia accumulated to 697.60 Mongolian Tugrek. In Macau, 1 ringgit Malaysia accumulated to 1.95 Macau Patakas. In North Korea, 1 ringgit Malaysia accumulated to 219.74 North Korean won. Lastly, in Taiwan, 1 ringgit Malaysia accumulated to 6.80 new Taiwan dollar.